In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern. And of course, we have cold air to discuss. It's very, very cold outside as we've been predicting. And also, heavy lake effect snowfall is impacting a lot of states surrounding those Great Lakes. Still to this day on December 2nd, feet of snowfall has piled up for many different areas. And again, that's all been basically predicted weeks ahead of time. We're going to be discussing the pattern as we go forward. Opportunities for snowfall, but a surprising lack of snow compared to the amount of cold that we have, and precipitation even. We're going to be discussing that. It's kind of shocking to me. And also some models starting to show signs of showing cooler times even after the 15th, which was a big question yesterday. I have multiple reasons for why that could be the case. This is obviously a little bit far out, so beyond the 10th and beyond the 15th especially is a little bit speculative, so keep that in mind. But we are going to discuss it nevertheless and go over the possibilities as we always do. So let's just dive into things, taking a look here at the GFS model. And today is, no surprise, warm in the west as we've been predicting, a huge positive P&A out there, and then this massive trough in the east. This is the reason for areas seeing well below normal highs and lows, as well as snow showers across some of the Midwest here. Even the Northeast, and then we have this lake effect snowfall obviously happening as this cold wind moves over the very warm waters. Let's keep going. I want to take us straight to Tuesday, and we're seeing a lot of the same. We do have a low here over kind of like south central Canada. This is bringing some decent snow. It's a bit of a clipper system. It's high to the north though. This trough continues to dig further and further south in the east, but you might notice that areas in the western quadrant here are seeing some warming over time. So this is starting to warm up from west to east. The east will hold on to it the longest. The west will see it end the quickest, just like it moves in. The west sees it sooner in the beginning and the east sees it last. It's the same thing with the warm-ups that move from west to east. As we keep going towards Wednesday though, just as this kind of warm-up wants to try to move in, we get kind of reinforcements in the cold area, and this cold air wants to move right back in, and very potently so. And you guessed it, it all came in due to a low between the Great Lakes and the Hudson Bay, which has been a driving factor in a lot of these cool downs that we've seen. It's pulling the cold air down with the cold front, and we're seeing snow showers around for all of these areas, including lake effect snow still for the lakes. And this is going to basically cool things back off in the east once again after a quick little bit more mild day. I'm talking 5 degrees warmer maybe for Wednesday. It's not even that intense at all. And we're going to see us move right back into the colder direction for multiple days. And the reason I circled the west here is because this positive P&A is still holding strong despite the warming in the east that's very, very slight and very, very quick. And that is why this cold air is moving right back in. That positive P&A really the factor for a lot of this. As this low slips to the east, it actually starts to slip southeast here, moving kind of towards the northeast. And this is kind of an Arctic low, so we see snow even to the southeast of the low here. And actually for the morning of Thursday and overnight Wednesday into Thursday, we're seeing snowfall throughout West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, southern New England, northern New England, heavy in spots. And this could be a sneaky little snowmaker, to say the least. We could see a few inches to maybe a bit more in some areas because of this low overhead. So quickly we're moving into a direction where we might have a snowstorm there on our hands before coming to an end, where lake effect snowfall continues. The cold kind of continues before we reach about the 8th, where we actually do get a true warm up here. And the reason is because we start to see cold in the west. Again, that west is driving everything right now. And this immediately rebounds us into a warmer pattern in the central states especially, but even for a little bit of the southeast as well. Here we're seeing a bit of a warm up. The northeast holds on to some of that colder air a bit better. This is Sunday the 8th. Let's move towards Monday the 9th. And the annoying part is that right when we lose that cold air and get warmth, we have massive amounts of precipitation all around for the eastern states. So if this would have been while we have cold air in these areas, we would be seeing a major snowfall situation somewhere, but we're just not seeing that add up. I will mention that really quickly, though, we do see warm air returning here to the west coast, and this cool down is on the move eastward. So let's see what happens. It's Wednesday the 9th, or Monday the 9th, better yet. Tuesday the 10th, we see the cold is moving eastward. We do get a bit of a strong low here right near northern Ohio, and this does bring perhaps a major snowstorm to like Chicago, areas in Indiana, and most of Michigan as well. Definitely could be a big time snowstorm for areas in the Great Lakes or Ohio Valley, maybe even the Midwest. We're going to need to pinpoint where that would be occurring. This GFS model tends to put things too far to the southeast. I know I sound like a broken record, but that is something to note here because maybe we'll be looking at a snowstorm much more for the upper Midwest here as opposed to areas in the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes, if that holds true. It doesn't always, but it could. As we move towards Wednesday on the 11th, we see that this cold air has kind of regained some ground here in the east. We're seeing another cold little patch here for the 11th there. The 12th, though, looks a little warmer, and we basically get another brief warm up for the 14th before another, again, marginal cool down moves in. I think the reason these are marginal is because your jet stream, it's not way up in Canada here like we're seeing now. It's way to the south through like the central western states, and we actually see a pretty zonal pattern here, kind of flat through a lot of the states here with the jet stream. And this is leading towards a lot of these areas seeing similar conditions west, central, and east, depending on how far north or south you are. As we move towards Monday, Tuesday, we see a lot of that continuing until we reach about the 17th, 18th here, where we do start to see some more substantial warming in the west, and this causes a little bit of an imbalance to the east, where we have a bit of a low over the Great Lakes, cold front developing, and it looks like cold air is back on the way for the east, as well as a pretty substantial snowstorm once again for the Great Lakes and upper Midwest here. If this happens, this warming in the west after the 15th time frame, we could move right back into a colder pattern in the east, and it could be long-lived again. So all of a sudden, we're talking about a December that is likely to end up being a below-average temperature month for the east, which it's been a long time since we've had a below-average temperature month in the east in any winter month. So crazy to think about. We're in the first month too. We didn't have to wait for it. Usually December is the sketchiest of the three, but who knows what comes for January, February. I know a lot of people are already commenting like this is going to be, ending at the 10th, and then we're going to see warmth all the way through March. And there's absolutely no reason or grounds to think that at this point. There's no guidance. There's nothing suggesting that, other than the fact that people are stuck in what's happened over the past 3 or 4 winters, which is warmth, 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 but that isn't the normal. People are saying it's the new normal. I don't believe that. I think that we've gotten into a warm patch. We saw very cold and snowy winters. 2010, we had a warm one in 2011, but then, 2013, 2014 were very cold. We had some cold patches that were very similar to this warm patch, just the opposite. And I think it's the same thing. We're going through little cycles here. So I think that we are due for a colder winter, snowier winter, and I do not think that just torch across the board is the new normal at all. That doesn't make any sense to me, at least. Now, as we look at the European model, we are going to see some similar things. We see the Great Lakes, the Clipper system, the next cool down moves through, warm in the west for a substantial period of time before we see cooling out there. This model, however, and this is the 10th, we see this warming start right back up, and we get colder air moving right back in, kind of on the back end here of a cold front underneath a low up here in northeastern Canada. So this cold front pulls the cold air back in for the 10th, 11th, 12th. Colder air moves back into the west again, but look at this. The cold just finds its way back to the east once again for the 14th, 15th time frame. A Midwest snowstorm there. And then here's a kind of upper Midwest system here. This is probably the warmest look we get on this model run. 985, heavy snowfall here for the upper Midwest. We see cold air. Your jet stream's doing basically this at this point. Warm air surging into the southeast corridor here. We see colder air pouring in through the west and into the central states here, something like this. But the main thing here is we have a little bit of warmth holding on here and wanting to move back into the west. This cold also looks pretty progressive to the east. This is the end of the model run, so we can't get any further than this, but I think this cold front's going to pull it back to the east once again. We'll look at the temperature anomalies in a minute, but here's the precipitation getting further and further towards the above average direction here for the northwest. We might even have some above average precipitation up there. And then a lot of the east here is going to be in the above average category as we get more and more precipitation in this corridor. But pay attention to this. Look at the east, tons of precipitation. And then look at the temperatures that we get at the same time period. This is the next 10 days, the 2nd through the 12th of December. In that same area where we saw above average precipitation, we're seeing far below average temperatures. Keep in mind, this is only dark blues, medium blues. You guys might be thinking that's only like 5 to 10 degrees below normal, but this is for an entire 10-day period. There is warmer days in here. So this is substantial when you're looking at a 10-day increment. And you would think that a lot of this would add up to snow when you see the far below average temperatures for a 10-day period, plus tons of precipitation moving through, but it just doesn't. It does not come together like that, unfortunately. It's wild. Here's the anomalies real quickly. We'll move into the snowfall in a second. And yeah, we do get above average precipitation finally for the Pacific Northwest. Rockies here, they've needed it for a few weeks now. We do see that there is patches of below average precipitation and above average precipitation. I would write this area up to about average. I would say this is around average. Most areas are about in between 1 inch below or 1 inch above average. So this is very close to normal for most areas. So this is good news for most everybody in the eastern half of the nation. Total snowfall, look at this. I mean, these areas are frigid and getting tons of precipitation. You would think we would have something big happening outside of the Great Lakes. And if you were to deduct the Great Lakes out of this, there would be not a lot. The most would be this area here, where we get that bit of a snow system that moves actually from the north down from Canada. This might bring 2, 4, 6 inches to some areas, maybe more in the mountains. So that's going to be pretty substantial. We also get a bit of a system moving through the Great Lakes, bringing a lot of this snowfall in here. But definitely a little underwhelming considering the potential that we have. Keep in mind the European model, we also get a pretty good amount for these areas, a couple inches up to maybe 4 or 6, like I mentioned. But we get this snowstorm much further to the west for the upper Midwest here. Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, the Upper Peninsula, Michigan mostly, getting this snowfall with that. So a little bit further to the northwest, which should be expected from this European model versus the GFS. Now, as we move towards the GFS model's temperature pattern, cold, cold, cold. This is all the way through the 4th. Again, Thursday the 4th, we get a brief warm-up that evening. I mean, it's like a little bit of a normal temperature. Like I said, it's not above normal necessarily. And then we get this really quick shot of even colder air that lasts from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday here to coming to an end. So another multi-day cool down before we get some true warmth moving up into the east. But we rebound right into some cooler temperatures once again for most of the east. And then we get some more flip-flopping. But look at the west when I do this whole pan through. What do you notice out there? It's almost warm the entire model run. Almost warm the entire model run. In the east here, when we look at it, almost cold the entire model run. There's some brief warm-ups in there, but almost cold for most of it, at least most of it. I'd say 75% at least. So very cold out there. The European model, we're going to get agreement here. Cold just surging into the east, warmth staying out west. But we end the model run here a little colder, as you can see, with a pretty decent cooldown moving down for the 16th. And then here's where we end it. We get a really brief warm-up moving in through the east. The east coast is still a little warmer here, or colder, for Tuesday the 17th. But notice it's a little milder down here for the southwest. Not necessarily a true positive PNA, but it is warmer. And the heart of this cold looks to be extending towards the east mostly, actually. So I suspect that what this model is actually going to do after the 17th is warm in the west again and push the cold right back into the east, which would be truly remarkable. Keep in mind, this is beyond 10 days out. This is about 15 or so days out. And, you know, that is a little bit, could be hit or miss. So we're going to continue to track it. But so far, what we're seeing from the models is encouraging if you're hoping for colder and snowier conditions to be possible later on in December. It is a bit encouraging with this current look, so more so than even yesterday or the day before. So we're moving in the right direction for maybe some colder and snowier conditions for later December. Anyway, we upload every single day, and we're going to continue to keep you guys up to date with all of these things, so be sure to subscribe for those daily weather videos. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.